Hi guys, for this video we will be reviewing Pokemon Prices and Rarity. We will be ranking Pokemon games based on the least expensive to the most expensive, and this video is made middle of 2024 and we will be using US dollars as the measure of price. I just collected Pokemon games mostly this year, so I'm still aware of how things are. I collected mostly in the Oceania region, which is around Australia and New Zealand, but when I look at eBay prices and price chart things, they're around the same as in the US or anywhere else in the world. So without further ado, we'll start ranking Pokemon games. But before I start, I would want to say that we can see that with Pokemon, the prices increase with time. Just an example, I can show you Pokemon White, which was sold for like £18 secondhand. This was just after it's been released, but at the moment the prices of Pokemon White is fourfold what's the number mentioned. And there are other buy and sell websites where you can compare, as this next example I'll show you. Alright, so now let's start ranking Pokemon games. So for this video, we will not include the Switch games, the new Pokemon games, just because their prices has been stable. And as you know, with Pokemon, they don't really give big discounts, and that's probably going to be the price of this Pokemon games until the new console comes out. So they're around $60 US at the moment. Okay. Of the older Pokemon games, the least expensive, the cheapest ones are your DS games, your 3DS games, your XY, Sun Moon, Ultra Sun, Omega Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire. So for Sun and Moon, you can just sell them for $20 for a CIB. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are a bit more expensive, around $35, as well as your Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And that's always been the case. The second installments of each game, let's say Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun, will be more expensive than Sun and Moon, and that will be a recurring pattern as we go. So yeah, I think one reason why the 3DS games are not selling for much is because of there's just a lot of them in the market at the moment. So there's around 16 million Sun and Moon sold, and around 16.5 million or more Pokemon X and Y copies sold. So it's oversaturated in the market at the moment. But who knows, in the future they might go up in price as well. Okay, so the next one would be your original Pokemon games. So your red, blue, yellow, and green. Just be mindful, Pokemon Green is a Japanese exclusive. It wasn't released outside of Japan. And in terms of pricing, Pokemon Blue, Yellow are lesser expensive than Pokemon Red. Pokemon Red is more expensive at around $60 for a loose cart. And the rest will be around $50. But with these old Pokemon games, you can see that the price of an unopened one is so big. So a new unopened one can sell for around $2,500, and a complete in a box can sell for around $400. And just because they're so rare, they're like more than 30 years old and all that. So but in terms of loose cards, they're quite cheap, and I think the number one reason for that is because they're the most sold Pokemon games. So red, blue, green, yellow, they sold more than 31 million copies worldwide. So there's a lot of them in the market. So they're not very expensive unless they're new. Okay, and the next one would be your DS games, Pokemon Pearl and Diamond and Pearl. They can be sold for around $60 for a CIB, And the more expensive one will be your Pokemon Platinum, which can be sold for around $100. And that's always been the case. As I said, the next installment after after the introduction of a generation will always be more expensive. And one reason behind that as well is because Pokemon Platinum is the third rarest Pokemon game with just 7.6 million copies sold worldwide. Okay, and the next one will be your Pokemon Black and White. So Pokemon Black and White can be sold for around 90 to 100 for a CIB, and Black 2 and White 2 can be sold for $160 complete in box as well. So White 2 and Black 2, they are just more expensive than Pokemon White and Black. And I think it's because in general, Pokemon White, Black, Black 2, White 2, their ratings are quite high, so that might pick new players' interests and trying them up. And also their rarity, because Pokemon Black 2, White 2 as well are the number 4 rarest Pokemon games with just around 8 million copies sold worldwide. Okay, and the next one will be your Gold, Silver, and Crystal. There's a big disparity here because a gold and silver can only be sold for around $60 loose, but the Pokemon Crystal is quite expensive, and it's probably one of the most expensive Pokemon games out there at the moment. A loose Pokemon Crystal can be sold for around $150 and a complete in a box can be sold for around $700. And a new one, oh my gosh, that would be so expensive. And I think one reason is because Pokemon Crystal is such a good game, and it is the rarest Pokemon out there. Rarest Pokemon game out there with just around 6 million copies sold worldwide. And in that 6 million, only 3 million were sold outside of Japan. And that was 30 years ago. So 30 years forward, I don't know how much is left from that 3 million sold outside of Japan. So if you have a Pokemon Crystal, just hang on to it. It can be more expensive in the future. Okay, so halfway there. The next thing would be your Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and your Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red. So Ruby and Sapphire, you can sell them for around 70 to 80. And Leaf Green and Fire Red can be sold a bit more expensive than that, but let's focus on the Pokemon Emerald because that's the real deal. You can sell a loose copy for around $200. And a complete in a box will be around $700. And an opened one, you can just imagine how expensive that would be. Depends on, how much money collectors would want to spend, really. And I think it's because obviously Emerald is such a good game, and that's the second rarest Pokemon game with just around 7 million copies sold worldwide. Okay, now let's go to the most expensive Pokemon games. And of course, that would be the one I haven't mentioned yet. That would be your Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And between Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Heart Gold is more expensive at the moment. You can sell Heart Gold for $215 complete in a box, and and Soul Silver will be around $170. And if it's an unopened one with the Pokewalker on it, you can even sell it for bigger box. Okay, and that's the summary of how things are at the moment, and that just reflects the current pricing in the market, and that might change as we go. But at the moment, I think the moral lesson is if you have Crystal, Emerald, Platinum, Black 2, White 2, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver, keep them for now because they will be more and more expensive in the future. And that's me. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. See you on my next video.